What's up guys? In this video I'm going to be showing you my process of how I paracord GameCube controller cables. First thing we're going to do is unsolder the cable from the board itself. So to do that, I like to use a solder pump. We're going to go ahead and hit these pins, get them kind of hot. Yep. And you'll see when you're doing it, you'll see the hole clear out of solder, so. So once I pop them all, I just kind of push them a little and make sure they look like they're freed up. And then I grab it like this. And you can tell, just give it a little tug, you can see if it's gonna come out. And then it usually pops right out. Okay, so now that we have the cable desoldered from the motherboard, the next thing we're going to do is separate the plastic port cover and take it off so we just have the rubber cable exposed. So to do that, I use a pair of pliers, a heat gun, and this little desk vise. So the first thing we're gonna do is heat it up, and you don't wanna get it too hot. One of the key things, you just wanna get it hot enough, so yeah. So I like to you really only need to get the two holes in the back, but I kinda like to rotate it around the entire thing. And I'll do it for like 10 or 15 seconds with this heat gun. All right. So we'll go ahead, and it's hot, so be careful. I go ahead and clamp it in here, and I like using this thing because it's rubber, so it won't scratch it. Once you have it in there, I take pliers and I wrap some masking tape around them so it doesn't scratch the port. And put it on there, give it. All right, we got it out. So we got it out, right here. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this zip tie off. Now that we have the plastic port cover loose, the next thing we're gonna do is take it off. And this is something that I do that most people don't do. I don't use the pins because the pins are what make it very hard to sleeve the paracord over the cable. So I don't even deal with them. I did it like twice and I was like, there's gotta be another way. So yeah, we're cutting those off. We're not dealing with those. Okay. So we're gonna do, there's a little piece of heat shrink right here that we have to cut off to get the port cover off. Okay, so now we go ahead and take port cover off. Set that aside. There's this little, it's like basically a little metal clamp that's holding the rubber on. I go ahead and take that off because I'm cutting all of the rubber off. So that's off. You can go ahead and set that aside. I don't use it. I replace it with heat shrink, so I'm not going to be using it. And then we have to open this up too. So this is the clamp that's holding the cable on. I use a little flathead screwdriver to kind of bend it out. All right, so I bend that out like that. And I kind of pull it out enough so you can see the wires, and then that's when I'll start cutting. So I'm gonna go ahead and be careful with your X-Acto knife. Just slice down. Just go ahead and slice all the way down as far as you can go. And on these older cables, you can sometimes just pull them apart. Now once we get all that off, we should have our cable looking like this. And this is just the wires covered by the copper shielding. Now I know some people will sleeve it with the copper shielding on. I don't do that. I've done this, I don't even know how many times, 60 or 70 times, and I've never had a problem with taking the copper shielding off in regards to like interference or anything like that. So I'm taking it off, and I'll show you how. So what you want to do is you want to kind of twirl it until you get it all into one clump. You just find it so it's all one clump, and just start unraveling it. And once you see you have the bulk of it all off and not hung up anywhere, I'll start pulling it off like this. Just start pulling it off and twisting it counterclockwise as you go down. Make sure it's not clumping up anywhere. Just go a little bit at a time. Slowly move down. So yeah, you just want to make sure you're twisting it to loosen it up. And then pulling it out. And then just kind of pull it off. Then you have this, and you shouldn't eat this, just so you know. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put some heat shrink on the end of this so that it makes it very easy to sleeve the paracord over. So for this, I'm using a piece of 3mm heat shrink tubing. So this part, what you're gonna do is you wanna twist the wire so that it kinda gets as small as possible. And pinch it at the end, and then feed the wires into it while twisting it. I'm very surprised I did that first try. Until it pokes out. And then when it pokes out, just pull them in just so they're right at the tip, because when we heat this up, we want this to come to a point. So go ahead and cut out your piece of paracord that you want to use. And I always overshoot it by about like 6 inches to make sure that we have enough, and you can just cut the excess off later. So go ahead and pull all the insides out. So take the end and just slide it in. Just kind of do a pinch and pull method. Pinch and pull. And once you get all the way through, stop when there's about 1 inch from it touching the start of the port. And that'll give us the perfect amount to solder in if we cut that off right now. All right, so go ahead and finish it up. Pull that through. So now we're on to this part. I push that as far in as it can go, just like that. And I go ahead and take another piece of heat shrink. Now this piece I'll be using is 4mm, and I'm only going to need about 1/2 inch of it. Just like that. All right, so go ahead and feed that on. And when you get to where it touches the paracord, just kind of twist it on. Get all the way in, and we're gonna push it all the way in. I'm gonna push it all the way in so that it is as far as in as it can go, because that's going to hold the paracord in place. Heat that up. right, so once that cools down, I'm gonna go ahead and pinch it, push it in and pinch it with this so that it holds it in place. Just give it a little tug to make sure it's not coming out. Feels good. All right, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cut off this heat shrink that we put on earlier. So we're gonna take another piece of 4mm heat shrink. That's about twice as long as that last one that we just used. It's about 1 inch long. I'm gonna sleeve that over same exact way. Twist it over the paracording. And then just gonna run this to make sure it's really tight. All right, now we're gonna get this right up to right above where the paracord ends. That's where I put it. That's gonna hold the cable in place. So let that cool down a little, and once that's cool, go ahead and slide your port cover back on. And then just kind of twist it on so you don't pull the cable down. Glue that all the way in, and then just kind of pop it on, just like that. You shouldn't need to glue it or anything, but sometimes they are kind of loose for some reason, and you can use a little hot glue if you need to. Just put a little bit inside of there and just kind of close it onto it. So the next thing I'm going to do is prep the wires so they can be soldered into the motherboard because we cut the pins off. I'm going to start with the blue one. What we're going to do is take the shielding off. Okay, then we expose the wire. Then you have to use flux or it doesn't work. Dip a little bit of flux. And then I pull it off and make the wire straight like that. And I'll take a little bit of solder and just put just enough on there so that the wire is stiff. You don't have to go crazy, you just want it to be stiff. And it'll look like that. So once you have all the wires tinned, they should look something like this. Now we're going to go ahead and solder them one by one back into the board. Start with the blue wire on the left side of the back. And just feed it into the hole. It goes right in, super easy. And then just rest the board on the rumble pack and just let it sit there and solder it in. And then just do that for the other 5. So the next one is yellow. Then red. Green. White. and then the black. All right, it'll look something like that, and I just go ahead and cut off all the excess wire. And you'll notice that this looks very similar to how a normal GameCube controller would look with the pins in. And that's how the wires look in the back. Now what I'll do sometimes is I'll put some hot glue back here and then I'll twist the wires like that. All right, and now you're done. Now all you have to do is put it back into your controller shell. And then twist the wire and tuck it underneath the rumble pack and wrap it around this screw hole. And just like that, it's good to go. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section down below, and I'll have links to everything that I used in the vid down in the description box.